and welcome to another edition of Currently in Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano. On today's program, we learn all about the Norfolk County Mosquito Control Project. The director, Dave Lawson, is here to chat with us. First, though, as always, we check out the weather and the news for you this morning. Currently in Quincy, it's partly sunny out there, 72 degrees right now. We'll have a mix of clouds and sun this afternoon. Temperatures up in the mid-70s, kind of a repeat of yesterday after the morning clouds and fog burned off. Comfortable again tonight. Temperatures dip down into the mid-60s, turning more humid, though, over the weekend. Tomorrow, there's a chance for a shower in the afternoon, rather muggy with highs in the mid-70s. Even warmer on Sunday with a spot storm around in the afternoon. Sunday's highs into the low 80s. Monday could be the start, believe it or not, of another heat wave. It'll be hot and humid with a high Monday in the low 90s. Right now, partly sunny, 72 degrees here in Quincy. In the news today, the Wollaston MBTA station did reopen today after a 20-month, $36 million renovation project. MBTA General Manager Steve Poftak was at the station to welcome commuters back, which has been made completely handicapped accessible now for the first time since it was built in 1971. The project included 3 new elevators, 2 new escalators, 2 more stairways, accessible bathrooms, plus a rebuilt parking lot. The T says the new parking prices will be $6 on the weekdays, $3 on weekends, and $105 for a monthly pass. Workers will continue to repave Newport Avenue from Brook Street to Beale Street and Greenwood Avenue from Woodbine Street to Beale Street. And the free shuttle buses that have replaced the trains during the project will continue to run for another week. Quincy police say they have shut down a pretty major drug distribution operation out of a Quincy Point apartment. Officers executed a search warrant at number 58 South Street, apartment 301 last week. They arrested 4 suspects and seized over 13 pounds of marijuana, heroin, fentanyl, plus over $37,000 in cash. Facing multiple charges are the residents of the apartment, 39-year-old Jun Hao Wu and 28-year-old Ji Lu Lee, along with 55-year-old Zhan Hui Wu and 51-year-old Lai Man Wu from Seattle, Washington. All 4 suspects face charges of drug trafficking and distribution. They were arraigned earlier this week in Quincy District Courts. State Representative Bruce Ayers of Quincy says the MBTA should provide shuttle buses to and from the parking lot at Squantum Point Park at Marina Bay to help make up for the loss of over 600 parking spaces at the North Quincy T station. In a letter to state officials, Ayers says that a shuttle service would help alleviate the overcrowded platforms and the delays at the North Quincy station, and would encourage more commuters to use the Marina Bay ferry at Squantum Point Park. Now, the parking at the North Quincy station was reduced as the T constructs a new parking garage there. Ayers says commuters should be allowed to park for free at the 800-space lot at Squantum Point Park that's owned by the Department of Conservation and Recreation. This coming fall, Quincy Mayor Thomas Koch will be asking the City Council to support the creation of a new public safety complex at the site of the current police station on C Street. Koch says he wants to create a brand new facility that will house the police department, the fire department's administration, the health department, veteran services department, the building inspector, and emergency management.
The station was kind of a add-on in the 80s. And I think they spent almost $10 million in the 80s. You probably could have built a brand new building behind it at the time for the same amount. It just was crazy. So it doesn't work well for the public. It doesn't work well for the operations of the police department, particularly this day and age with all the changes we have. So we have engaged, as we got money last year from the council, an architecture firm to do some studies and to do some initial design work, and we're getting there. My initial idea was to try to combine a police and fire headquarters, but after much analysis and review, we will not be putting the fire apparatus there. It would have had an adverse effect on another part of our city, this really South Quincy, on the response time, which I did not want to have a negative effect on that anywhere. So we're looking at a complete new police station, and we'll be putting the administration operation of the fire department in there, as well as emergency management.
City Council did previously approve $100,000 to design the new complex. However, Koch says he doesn't want to speculate on the total costs of the project until he has more information. He says he will ask the City Council to borrow the funds for that project. Some high school students in Quincy will be learning about the dangers of vaping, thanks in part to a donation from Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital, Milton. A $15,000 check was recently presented to Quincy School Superintendent Rick DeCristofaro for the creation of the new vaping educational and prevention programs. Hospital President Richard Fernandez says that vaping among young people is becoming a crisis.
Thank you. Today we are here to show BID Milton support for the Quincy Public Schools. We're here today to present a check in terms from our community benefit program to the City of Quincy Schools to provide vaping education prevention for both parents and students, which we know vaping is an emerging and a difficult issue to address for our young people. I know personally we don't want to see people who have been vaping in our emergency departments or our pulmonary clinics. It's a big issue, and we're really proud to support the Quincy Public Schools.
Yeah, I want to thank you very, very, very much for the support, because it's so important to our, number one, our students, but also our parents. And to involve the parent education piece is really something that I think will be appreciated by so many families in Quincy. And then our staff as well to be involved. I think that we are just tremendously fortunate to have such a great partner.
Great.
And your support is appreciated throughout the city by the school committee and certainly Mayor Koch as well. So I want to thank you very much.
Yes.
The grant will be made in $5,000 increments over the next 3 years and target 10th graders and their parents. The hospital hopes to help fund similar programs for younger students in the future. Now that you are up to date with weather and news, let's check out our programming lineup for later on today here on Quincy Access Television. It'll start with a replay of this program currently in Quincy today at 5 o'clock. Then at 6 o'clock, join us for sound advice from attorney Tom Williams.
Hello, folks. I'm attorney Tom Williams, and welcome to Sound Advice.
Currently in Quincy, the interviews at 6:30 will look at this coming Sunday's August Moon Festival. At 7 o'clock, this year's Quincy Recreation Department Musical Theater Workshop. Brand new show at 8 o'clock tonight, the premiere of Seasoning with Sasha. Hope you can join us for that. At 8:35, the recent John Quincy Adams wreath-laying ceremony.
252nd birthday of John Quincy Adams.
9:30, it's Porch Fest Quincy. Tonight, performances from Marymount. Check out Channel 9 every day. Learn about different Quincy city departments and committee activities. Starts at 5:30 with Quincy in Focus. Six o'clock, Fire Prevention and You. Tonight, it's all about grill safety. FYI from the Quincy Health Department tonight at 6:30, and the topic, hyperhidrosis. Get a legislative update at 7 o'clock. State Representative Bruce Ayers. His guest is Representative Ruth Balzer. At 7:30, we go in your neighborhood tonight in Ward 6. The John Quincy Adams wreath-laying ceremony tonight at 8 on Channel 9.
252nd birthday of John Quincy Adams.
And then at 9 o'clock, find out what's happening at your library for the rest of August.
Welcome to At Your Library.
You can get a complete program schedule on our website. That's qatv.org. When you get there, just click on Program Schedule. And as always, do please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And don't forget to check out our weekly ad in the Quincy Sun. Coming up, we take a look at a few of the current events and activities that are featured on our electronic community bulletin boards. That's next. Welcome Welcome back. Here is a check of some of the current events and activities that are being displayed on our electronic bulletin board on Channel 8 for you to know about. Like tomorrow's fundraiser for neurofibromatosis. It's being held from 4 to 7 p.m. on board the Boston Belle. It'll be setting sail from Squantum Point Park at Marina Bay in Quincy. You're invited. Join Loretta DeGrazia and Catherine Doherty. They'll be raising awareness for the condition that their 18-year-old son Miguel has. The cruise features a Motown theme. Costumes are encouraged. Call 617-840-9100 for more information. The Dorothy Quincy Homestead will be holding free public tours tomorrow from 11 to 2. The tours will be acknowledging the wedding anniversary of Dorothy and John Hancock. There'll be a special display. Those are free and open to all. Fenno House 11th Annual Fundraising Fairs today and tomorrow from 9 to 3. This year's fair features a yard sale, raffle, food, much more. They even have their own website, fennohouse.org. And Sunday, it is the 32nd Annual August Moon Festival from noon to 5 on Coddington Street in Quincy Center. Quincy Asian Resources, in partnership with the city, are presenting the free celebration with live music, games, prizes, food from all over the world, refreshments as well. You can visit quincyasianresources.org for complete details. And if you have an event or an activity you'd like to promote, visit our website, qatv.org. Just download a bulletin board request form, fill it out and send it in. Get that message up here on Channel 8 too. Coming up, we check in with David Lawson, director of the Norfolk County Mosquito Control Project. That's next. Welcome back. We're certainly still right in the heart of mosquito season. Lots of folks will need to take precautions to protect themselves from the mosquito-borne diseases that have been making the news recently. Here in Norfolk County, the Norfolk County Mosquito Control Project has been doing that, as I learned, for over 60 years. From the director, Dave Lawson, who's joining us in studio for the first time, but hopefully not the last. Dave, great to see you.
Yes, good to be here.
Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
the opportunity.
Yeah.
Every year we tell folks, make sure you, as you saw in the PSA, remove your standing water, use your DEET repellents, don't go out in dawn or dusk. And spraying is taking place from the Norfolk County Mosquito Control Project, but we never really know what the project was.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, I was sharing with you earlier, the project was established in 1956.
Yeah.
A lot of the districts in the state were established through legislation, some as far back as 1930, but we've been around since 1956. One of the things I like to talk about is just sort of the way we do what's called integrated pest management. And so the idea is we want to do pest control, mosquito control in this case, where we're really knowledgeable about what we're doing. So we want to know where the mosquitoes are. We want to try and control them as best we can without putting out too much pesticide. We want to try and actually reduce places where they breed. So one of the things we do is we do surveillance. That's sort of one of the first things we do, where we go out, we check water, we try to, we want to know where the mosquitoes are. We trap mosquitoes with adult traps as well. But then the next tier we do is what we call water management. And mosquito control, going way back to early 1900s, was primarily done with water management. We still do some. It's more restricted today because of environmental concerns. But the idea is to remove standing water so that you're not creating an environment where mosquitoes can breed to start with. Mm-hmm. Of course, we can never get all those places. We can't get rid of all the water.
Right. And there's always new places, I'm sure.
And there are new places, yes. In fact, human beings, we often create our own places where they breed a lot, and that's what we talked about in the PSA.
Yes.
People breed them in their yards, but even towns and cities will create places as well without knowing it.
Right.
So. Then the next tier, in the whole IPM, a way of doing pest control would be to do larviciding. So where we know there are mosquitoes in the water, we can actually go treat the mosquitoes in the water. And I actually have a product here that I brought along. Mm-hmm. It's called BTI. Some people have heard it, but it's a very environmentally friendly product. This product is actually mostly corn cob, ground up corn cob.
Okay.
with a bacillus bacteria on it, and it actually kills mosquito and black fly larvae only.
Oh, okay.
So we apply this actually in the city of Quincy
Yes.
to sites, a lot in the spring, but to some of the salt marshes as well, through the summer to control the mosquito larvae to prevent them from becoming the adult flying mosquitoes.
Okay.
And then finally, of course, we can't get them all either. And so, people in Quincy are familiar, especially people who live near the marshes,
Yes.
near the coast, with adult mosquitoes, and they can be, really a problem at times. And so we do get the trucks out, and we'll spray in the neighborhoods to control them, the adult mosquitoes when they're really bad.
What is it that you're spraying?
So we apply a product called Xenovex, that's the brand name.
Okay.
It's in a class of insecticides called synthetic pyrethroids, and they're actually very, very low toxicity to the environment, to people. One of the things I like to say is to get people an image of how low the toxicity is. The product we use to spray out of the trucks in the city, the active ingredient, is actually 200 times less toxic than caffeine.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's effective at killing mosquitoes,
Yes.
but if you think about it in those kind of terms, people are drinking caffeine all the time.
Yes, yeah.
Just to, to have that image in their head.
Sure.
So very low toxicity.
Has that changed over the years, David?
Yeah, so, products in the old days were more toxic.
Yeah.
And we, honestly, people are not always aware of it now, but we've applied technology to create, chemicals that are much lower toxicity to the environment and people, but are still effective at killing the insects that we're looking to kill.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's called, the Mosquito Control Project, not the Mosquito Prevention Project. There's no way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
There's no way to really. There is some. We probably won't really talk much about it.
Yeah.
There's some talk these days about using genetic technology to possibly maybe even eliminate a mosquito species.
Okay.
But we're not in that business right now.
Okay.
And so, when we think about mosquitoes, there's no way we're going to eliminate mosquitoes.
Right.
So we're really trying to manage it to levels where, it reduces the nuisance for people and it hopefully prevents disease from being high risk.
Right, which is obviously the primary concern, especially we've heard recently in the news about Eastern equine encephalitis and actually a human case in southeastern
Yes.
Massachusetts.
Yes. When we think about Eastern equine encephalitis, Florida has the highest incidence cases in the country. But believe it or not, Massachusetts is the second highest
Really?
in the country. And a lot of it has to do with the marshes, the wetlands in southeastern Mass,
Okay.
and the interaction with the birds that are spreading the disease among, in the bird population. So yes, Eastern equine encephalitis is very concerning in the state. And this year in particular,
Yes.
we're very concerned about it. The state has recently conducted an aerial spray program
Yes.
down in Bristol and Plymouth County.
Yeah,
So,
I think there was a detection actually in Canton and Norfolk
so
County,
yes,
I think,
and
yeah.
there has actually been, we've newly discovered that there's been a detection in Walpole as well.
Oh, really?
As we found out today. So yes, it's starting to show up in the Norfolk County district as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which adds to the heightened concern, I guess,
Yes,
about the issue.
not every year is it this bad. This year, it's definitely concerning. So we definitely encourage people to, take precautions.
Yeah.
Use repellents. Avoid those times of day when the mosquitoes are at their worst.
It was a very wet spring, and it has not been a particularly dry summer, really. So.
Yeah, it's dried out to some degree,
Yeah.
but it's been wetter than the last 3 years
Yeah.
when we've really had sort of serious dry summers.
Sure.
Yes.
How long does the mosquito season run, basically, at least here in the
Well, as from a biological standpoint, we tend to think of the mosquito season as going until we have a hard frost that really kills off the mosquitoes. And when we think about disease, the risk is still there. So in some seasons, we've still had people getting West Nile virus as late as November.
Really?
Generally speaking, our spray activities will end usually around mid-September.
Okay.
And so at that point, it really becomes something that's put on the residents to take personal precautions. There's not really much we can do after that point.
Okay. Here in Quincy, how is the spraying program implemented, Dave? How does that actually happen?
So actually, in all our towns, it's
Yeah.
pretty much the same. We do trapping, and we will sometimes use those trap data to drive how we do our spraying, especially when it comes to disease. So like in this case now where we have disease showing up, we will target spraying in those areas. But primarily, we take requests from residents as a way of letting the public let us know, hey, this is where it's bad. I have a bad mosquito problem.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we use that as, we use those calls and requests. We map them and we create, areas where we spray. We do not just go out and spray entire towns. We don't go and just spray the entire city of
Okay.
Quincy. We use those calls to try and target where we're spraying.
Okay. Any, I know here in Quincy it's truck spraying mostly, or is that
Yes.
right? Yeah. Okay.
So we do truck mount spray. We don't have any means of doing an aerial spraying. People who are in the district might be familiar. We do an aerial larvicide application in the spring in April, where we use products similar to this to treat wetlands. But as far as spraying for adult mosquitoes, yes, we're only using trucks.
Okay. And I think it's important to point out too that people can kind of opt out, right, if they don't want their property
So yes,
sprayed.
we
Yeah.
have, I think over 200 people in the entire 25-town district this season have opted out, and there's a site through the state where people can basically ask to be excluded from our applications. And what that does is it creates a 300-foot buffer around their property parcel,
Okay.
and we will not spray within that zone.
Okay. All
Yes.
right. And you mentioned, water management here in Quincy. As you mentioned, there's a lot of salt marshes.
Yep.
Beechwood Knoll area, out on House Neck, Germantown. Can you talk to us a little bit about how that's happening here in the city?
So, traditionally, if you go way back historically to the 30s, a lot of the salt marshes on the entire east coast of the United States, actually, but specifically in Massachusetts, salt marshes were ditched, and often severely ditched, where, every 20, 50, 100 feet, there'd be a ditch, and the idea was to drain all the water off the salt marshes.
Right.
And it was effective.
Yep.
It actually did get the water off, and it did prevent mosquito breeding. We do know now that there was an environmental, cost to that in a sense, because the marshes were designed to have water on them for shorebirds and other creatures. And so we recognize now that, probably taking all the water off wasn't the best idea.
Sure.
What we've implemented over the last couple decades is something called open marsh water management, where we utilize low ground pressure excavators to go onto the marsh. In many cases, we actually create water on the marsh, but we do it in a way in which predatory fish can be in those ponds and eat all the mosquito larvae.
Okay.
And so we try to manipulate the marsh in a way that creates sort of a natural environment,
Yeah.
but an environment that's not conducive for mosquito breeding.
Okay.
And we've been doing that. We think we've been pretty successfully in the city at reducing mosquitoes in that sense. And the great thing about that is then you don't have to use pesticides as much to control the mosquitoes.
You brought a couple of pictures of mosquito traps we wanted to show folks. They
Yes.
might be seeing these out and about when they're walking or
Probably not.
driving.
We
Yeah.
try to hide them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because we do have an issue with them getting stolen at
Oh,
times.
geez.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So, but what you're seeing on the screen right there is what we call a CDC trap, and we hang it in a tree, and it's baited with CO2. That's
Oh,
the tank you
okay.
see there. And that's basically mimicking like human breath.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which draws mosquitoes, and so we're trying to trap mosquitoes in there, and we'll take those mosquitoes and we will identify them and send them off to the state lab in Boston, and they'll test them
Okay.
for the diseases.
Okay.
The trap that's on the screen now is called a gravid trap, and we're actually trying to attract female mosquitoes who have already fed on somebody, and they're trying to lay eggs that in that the black basin there.
Yep.
We put in actually really nasty, stinky water that attracts the mosquitoes, and they get drawn in and they get sucked into the trap.
Oh, all
and the
right.
same idea, we're
Okay.
sending those off to be tested. Though that trap specifically is to look for mosquitoes that are harboring West Nile virus.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Is it true it's just the females that bite?
It is true.
Okay.
Female only bite, yes.
Okay. You brought some examples of repellent here, some commercial
Yeah,
products.
I mean, we've noticed in recent years a lot of people have questions about
Yeah.
about repellents, and we're not necessarily advocating a particular
Right.
repellent
Right.
brand, but here's one that has DEET in it.
DEET. right?
DEET.
Yeah.
It's a chemical, and it's still known to be the most effective repellent on the market.
Okay.
And so we advocate using that. But a lot of people don't like the feel and smell of DEET, and I'm in particular one of those as well. This just happens to be a product that has a chemical in it called picaridin, Picaridin.
Okay.
And it's just about effective as DEET.
All right.
And it doesn't have that weird feel that people complain
Yeah.
about on the skin, and it doesn't smell as much, so we would recommend that as well.
Okay.
And then for people who really don't want to use those products, who someone wants to use a botanical or
Yes.
we'd call an all-natural product, oil of lemon eucalyptus is considered pretty effective as well
Okay.
as a sort of a natural product.
All right.
So we would recommend that.
Well, it looks like from the weather forecast, we're going to have mosquitoes around for a little bit longer. So all these and more, the precautions we mentioned earlier would be good ways to control
Yes.
that. So, David,
Yes.
thank you so much. Really appreciate your
No,
time.
great. Thanks for having me over.
You were very welcome.
Yes.
We'll have you back too.
Okay.
Just enough time to recap the forecast for you for the rest of the day today. Kind of what you see is what you get. Sun and clouds in the mid-70s. The weekend starting to warm up and get more humid, and maybe the start of a heat wave again on Monday. Thanks again to Dave Lawson for joining us from the Norfolk County Mosquito Control Projects. Thanks to our crew, and thank you for watching. We'll be off now till August 30th when we welcome the Quincy Salvation Army to another live edition of Currently in Quincy. We'll see you then.